The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. In today's interconnected world, relationships are a fundamental aspect of our existence, influencing our happiness, success, and overall well-being. However, not all relationships are created equal. Some are genuine and nurturing, while others are deceptive and draining. False relationships can be as deceptive as a mirage in a desert, challenging to identify amidst the masks of cordiality and self-interest. In a world full of meetings and mismatches, discerning who genuinely cares for us is an art requiring intuition, a sharp eye, and often painful lessons. Like a skilled gardener distinguishing nourishing plants from those that deplete soil nutrients, we must learn to identify true allies and emotional parasites. This guide will explore the subtle signs and less obvious patterns, revealing hidden intentions behind forced smiles and empty promises. If you're here, it's because you are interested in personal development. Let's uncover the wisdom to illuminate the path to more authentic and rewarding relationships. Before we start, please watch this video until the end, as all the content is important. Be strong, stay focused, and don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. 1. Failure to fulfill promises. This act of making and breaking promises resembles a theatrical performance where words are the actors and actions the neglected script. Individuals who fail to fulfill promises master verbal persuasion, painting vivid pictures of commitment and support. However, their words often lack the substance of action. They create expectations with the flourish of a painter, but when the time comes to turn these painted dreams into reality, they falter, revealing the emptiness of their assurances. This absence in times of need is not just a breach of trust, but a clear indicator of their true motivations. Their promises are tools for manipulation designed to extract value, trust, or support, with no intention of reciprocation. Observing this behavior helps distinguish those who value relationships as a two-way street of mutual respect and support from those who see relationships merely as avenues for personal gain. The psychological impact of broken promises. Broken promises can have a profound psychological impact. They undermine trust, leading to feelings of betrayal and disappointment. Over time, repeated experiences of unfulfilled commitments can erode self-esteem and create a pervasive sense of insecurity. Understanding the psychological toll of broken promises can help in recognizing and addressing these toxic patterns in relationships. Case study: The Tale of Trust Betrayed. Consider the story of Emma, who had a friend named Sarah. Sarah was always promising to help Emma with various tasks, from studying for exams to moving apartments. However, every time Emma needed Sarah's assistance, Sarah would have a convenient excuse. Over time, Emma realized that Sarah's promises were empty, leaving her feeling let down and undervalued. This experience taught Emma to be more discerning about the promises people made and to prioritize those who genuinely supported her. 2. Diminishing or disdainful comments. Individuals who habitually use others for personal gain deploy diminutive remarks to erode self-esteem, confidence, and self-worth. These comments, often cloaked in humor or casual banter, are barbed hooks designed to pull down rather than uplift. They may trivialize your successes, scoff at your aspirations, or appear disinterested in your struggles. This behavior is akin to subtle psychological warfare, systematically undervaluing your achievements to create an imbalance in the relationship. Such disdainful remarks reflect their own insecurities, masking their vulnerabilities and projecting a facade of superiority. Recognizing and understanding this behavior is crucial for seeing through the superficial charm and addressing the toxic dynamics of the relationship. The long-term effects of diminishing comments. Persistent exposure to diminishing comments can lead to long-term psychological effects such as decreased self-worth, increased anxiety, and depression. These comments create an environment where the affected individual feels constantly undermined and undervalued, impacting their overall mental health and well-being. Case study: the undermined colleague. Consider the case of John, who worked with a colleague named Mike. Mike would often make snide remarks about John's work, belittling his efforts and achievements. Initially, John brushed off these comments, but over time they started to affect his confidence. John began to doubt his abilities and felt increasingly demoralized. Recognizing the toxic impact of Mike's behavior, John sought support from his supervisor and started to assertively address the undermining comments, eventually regaining his confidence and sense of self-worth. 3. Unilateral benefit. In a relationship marked by unilateral benefit, one person frequently borrows money or resources with promises of repayment that never materialize, leans heavily on the other for emotional support without offering the same in return, and seeks favors but is absent when their counterpart needs help. This one-sidedness is akin to a parasitic relationship where the user draws nourishment, emotional, financial, or practical support without contributing equally to the well-being of their host. Over time, this lack of reciprocity depletes the giver's resources, leaving them drained and unfulfilled. Identifying this pattern involves recognizing the persistent lack of reciprocity and the feeling of being perpetually shortchanged in the relationship. The dynamics of unilateral benefit. Understanding. The dynamics of unilateral benefit involves recognizing the imbalance of effort and support in the relationship. It requires an awareness of the subtle ways in which one party may exploit the other's generosity and willingness to help, leading to an unsustainable and unhealthy dynamic. Case study: the generous friend. Consider the story of Lisa, who had a friend named Karen. Karen was always borrowing money from Lisa, promising to pay it back but never following through. Additionally, whenever Karen had an emotional crisis, she would turn to Lisa for support. But when Lisa needed help, Karen was nowhere to be found. Over time, Lisa realized that the relationship was draining her resources and emotional energy without any reciprocity. She decided to set clear boundaries and prioritize relationships where there was mutual support and respect. 4. Disregard for your needs or feelings. Disregard for your needs or feelings is akin to tending a garden where only one flower is allowed to bloom while the others are neglected. In such interactions, the user's needs and desires are prioritized while yours are sidelined or dismissed. This behavior, evident in their routine overlooking of your emotional needs, indifference to your opinions, and neglect of your achievements, is a calculated neglect to maintain an upper hand in the relationship. Recognizing the signs of emotional neglect is essential for seeking connections where reciprocity, respect, and mutual care are foundational pillars. The impact of emotional neglect. Emotional neglect in relationships can lead to feelings of isolation, loneliness, and worthlessness. It undermines the affected individual's sense of self and creates an environment where their needs and feelings are consistently invalidated. Case study: the overlooked partner. Consider the case of Anna, who was in a relationship with Mark. Mark was always focused on his own needs and desires, often dismissing Anna's opinions and feelings. Whenever Anna tried to express her needs, Mark would change the subject or make her feel guilty for bringing it up. Over time, Anna felt increasingly isolated and undervalued. Recognizing the emotional neglect, she sought therapy to rebuild her self-esteem and eventually made the decision to leave the relationship, seeking connections where her needs and feelings were respected and valued. 5. Emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation starts insidiously, with the manipulator presenting themselves as caring and attentive. However, this facade quickly morphs into a mechanism for inducing feelings of anxiety, inadequacy, or guilt. The manipulator becomes adept at pushing emotional buttons, praising to elevate you when it suits their purpose, then sharply criticizing to create self-doubt and dependency. This behavior destabilizes the target, making them emotionally dependent and constantly seeking the manipulator's approval. Identifying emotional manipulation requires awareness of these dynamics and understanding their impact on one's sense of self and emotional well-being. The mechanics of emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation involves subtle tactics such as gaslighting, guilt-tripping, and playing the victim. Understanding these tactics can help in recognizing when one is being manipulated and in taking steps to protect oneself from emotional harm. Case study: the manipulative friend. Consider the story of Michael, who had a friend named Jake. Jake would often compliment Michael to boost his confidence, only to later criticize him harshly for minor mistakes. This pattern created a cycle where Michael felt dependent on Jake's approval and constantly sought to avoid his criticism. Over time, Michael realized that Jake was manipulating him to maintain control. He decided to distance himself from Jake and build healthier relationships based on mutual respect and genuine support. 6. Lack of genuine support. Envision a tree in a vast forest, ideally supported by the surrounding trees and undergrowth, receiving nutrients, shelter, and companionship. Now imagine a tree standing alone in a barren landscape, unsupported. This is akin to being in a relationship with someone who lacks genuine interest in your well-being. Your goals, projects, and challenges are met with apathy or superficial gestures of support. The person's involvement is calculated based on personal benefit, creating an imbalance where one party continuously gives while the other takes. Recognizing this lack of genuine support is crucial for understanding the nature of the relationship and seeking connections that are nurturing, reciprocal, and genuinely supportive. The consequences of superficial support. Superficial support can leave individuals feeling isolated and unsupported in times of need. It undermines their confidence and can lead to feelings of abandonment and loneliness. Case study: the superficial mentor. Consider the case of Rachel, who looked up to her colleague, Tom, as a mentor. Tom often praised Rachel's work in front of others, but showed little genuine interest in her professional development. Whenever Rachel sought Tom's advice or support for her projects, he would give vague responses or ignore her requests. Over time, Rachel realized that Tom's support was superficial and self-serving. She decided to seek mentorship from colleagues who genuinely cared about her growth and development, leading to more fulfilling and supportive professional relationships. 7. Patterns of dishonesty. Dishonesty, whether through blatant lies or subtle distortions of the truth, is a cornerstone of false relationships. It erodes trust, creating a foundation of uncertainty and suspicion. Individuals who habitually lie or deceive do so to maintain control, manipulate outcomes, or protect their self-image. Recognizing patterns of dishonesty requires keen observation and an understanding of the motives behind these behaviors. It involves looking beyond words to actions and inconsistencies, understanding that trust, once broken, is challenging to rebuild. In relationships, honesty is the glue that holds people together, and its absence signals a fundamental flaw in the connection. The impact of dishonesty on trust. Dishonesty undermines the foundation of trust in relationships. It creates an environment of doubt and suspicion, making it difficult to maintain a healthy and supportive connection. Case study: The deceptive partner. Consider the story of David, who was in a relationship with Emily. David often caught Emily in small lies, which she would dismiss as harmless. However, over time, these lies grew more significant, eroding David's trust. He began to feel anxious and unsure about their relationship, constantly questioning Emily's honesty. Recognizing the pattern of dishonesty, David decided to have an open conversation with Emily about his concerns. When Emily continued to be evasive and untruthful, David made the difficult decision to end the relationship, prioritizing his need for honesty and trust in his connections. 8. Absence during hard times. The true test of any relationship is its resilience in the face of adversity. Those who are present only during moments of joy and success but are conspicuously absent during times of hardship reveal their true colors. Their absence during your struggles speaks volumes about their commitment and loyalty. This pattern is indicative of a superficial connection, where the relationship is maintained only as long as it is convenient or beneficial for them. Recognizing this absence helps in understanding the depth of the relationship and in seeking connections that are steadfast and reliable, regardless of circumstances. The significance of support. During adversity, support during difficult times is a hallmark of genuine relationships. It demonstrates loyalty, commitment, and a willingness to stand by each other through thick and thin. Case study: the fair-weather friend. Consider the case of Alex, who had a friend named Chris. Chris was always around when things were going well for Alex, celebrating his successes and enjoying the good times. However, when Alex faced a personal crisis, Chris was nowhere to be found. He avoided Alex's calls and made excuses to stay away. This experience made Alex realize that Chris was a fair-weather friend. He decided to focus on building relationships with people who were supportive and present in both good times and bad, leading to more meaningful and dependable connections. 9. Conditional affection. Conditional affection is a manipulative tactic used to control and exploit. It involves bestowing affection, praise, or support only when it serves the manipulator's purpose, and withdrawing it to punish or exert control. This behavior creates an environment where the recipient feels constantly on edge, striving to meet the manipulator's expectations to gain approval and avoid rejection. Recognizing conditional affection requires an understanding of the dynamics of power and control in relationships and a commitment to seeking connections that are based on unconditional love, respect, and mutual care. The effects of conditional affection. Conditional affection creates a toxic environment where individuals feel constantly judged and evaluated. It undermines their sense of self-worth and creates a dependency on the manipulator's approval. Case study: the manipulative parent. Consider the story of Jessica, who grew up with a parent who used conditional affection to control her behavior. Whenever Jessica met her parents' expectations, she received praise and affection. However, when she made mistakes or pursued her own interests, her parent withdrew affection and became critical. This pattern created a deep sense of insecurity and a constant need for approval. As an adult, Jessica recognized the impact of this conditional affection on her self-esteem and sought therapy to rebuild her sense of self-worth. She also set boundaries with her parent, seeking healthier and more supportive relationships. 10. Using guilt as a weapon. Guilt tripping is a potent weapon in the arsenal of manipulators. It involves inducing feelings of guilt to control or manipulate behavior. This tactic is used to make the target feel responsible for the manipulator's feelings or actions, creating a sense of obligation and compliance. Recognizing guilt tripping requires an understanding of the emotional manipulation tactics used to induce guilt. and a commitment to setting healthy boundaries to protect one's emotional well-being. The mechanisms of guilt tripping. Guilt tripping involves tactics such as blame shifting, playing the victim, and exaggerating the impact of the target's actions. Understanding these mechanisms can help in recognizing and addressing guilt-tripping behavior. Case study: the guilty partner. Consider the case of Megan, who was in a relationship with Sam. Whenever Megan expressed her needs or concerns, Sam would respond by making her feel guilty for bringing it up. He would say things like, "After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" This tactic made Megan feel responsible for Sam's feelings and hesitant to assert her own needs. Recognizing the pattern of guilt tripping, Megan sought therapy to build her confidence and set boundaries in the relationship. She eventually decided to end the relationship, seeking connections where her needs and feelings were respected and valued. 11. Exploiting vulnerabilities. Exploiting vulnerabilities involves using personal information or weaknesses against someone to manipulate or control them. This behavior is often disguised as concern or support, but it is ultimately self-serving and harmful. Recognizing this exploitation requires an understanding of the manipulator's tactics and a commitment to protecting one's vulnerabilities and seeking relationships that are based on trust and respect. The impact of exploiting vulnerabilities. Exploiting vulnerabilities can lead to feelings of betrayal, shame, and insecurity. It undermines the individual's sense of trust and creates an environment where they feel constantly on guard. Case study: the betrayed confidant. Consider the story of Laura, who confided in her friend, Rachel, about her struggles with anxiety. Rachel initially seemed supportive, but she later used this information to manipulate Laura, making comments like, "If you don't do this for me, I'll tell everyone about your anxiety." This exploitation of Laura's vulnerability made her feel ashamed and betrayed. Recognizing the manipulation, Laura decided to distance herself from Rachel and seek support from friends who respected her privacy and vulnerabilities. 12. Constant need for validation. Individuals who constantly seek validation often do so at the expense of others. They require continuous praise and attention to feel valued, and they manipulate others to fulfill this need. This behavior creates an imbalance in the relationship, where the target's needs and feelings are overshadowed by the manipulator's constant demands for validation. Recognizing this behavior involves understanding the manipulator's need for validation and setting boundaries to protect one's emotional well-being. The dynamics of validation-seeking behavior. Validation-seeking behavior involves constant demands for praise, attention, and approval. It creates an environment where the target feels constantly pressured to meet the manipulator's needs, often at the expense of their own well-being. Case study: the needy friend. Consider the case of Sarah, who had a friend named Tom. Tom constantly sought Sarah's validation, needing her to praise his accomplishments and reassure him of his worth. This behavior became exhausting for Sarah, as she felt pressured to always be supportive and validating. Recognizing the imbalance, Sarah decided to set boundaries and prioritize her own needs, seeking friendships where there was mutual support and validation. 13. Refusal to take responsibility. A hallmark of false relationships is the refusal to take responsibility for one's actions. Individuals who habitually blame others, make excuses, and avoid accountability create a toxic environment where the target feels constantly blamed and responsible for the manipulator's actions. Recognizing this behavior requires an understanding of the dynamics of responsibility and accountability in relationships, and a commitment to seeking connections where there is mutual accountability and respect. The consequences of avoiding responsibility. Avoiding responsibility creates a toxic environment where blame and excuses are rampant. It undermines trust and creates a sense of injustice and frustration for the target. Case study: the irresponsible partner. Consider the story of Kevin, who was in a relationship with Lisa. Whenever there was a conflict or issue, Lisa would refuse to take responsibility, blaming Kevin or making excuses for her actions. This behavior created a sense of frustration and injustice for Kevin, as he felt constantly blamed and undervalued. Recognizing the pattern of irresponsibility, Kevin decided to have an open conversation with Lisa about his concerns. When Lisa continued to avoid responsibility, Kevin made the difficult decision to end the relationship, seeking connections where there was mutual accountability and respect. 14. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation that involves making someone question their reality, memory, or perceptions. This tactic is used to control and undermine the target, creating a sense of confusion and self-doubt. Recognizing gaslighting requires an understanding of the manipulator's tactics and a commitment to trusting one's perceptions and seeking support to address the manipulation. The tactics of gaslighting. Gaslighting involves tactics such as denial, contradiction, and misinformation. Understanding these tactics can help in recognizing and addressing gaslighting behavior. Case study: the gaslighting partner. Consider the case of Emma, who was in a relationship with John. John would often deny things he had said or done, making Emma question her memory and perceptions. He would say things like, "You're just imagining things," or "That never happened." This gaslighting behavior created a sense of confusion and self-doubt for Emma. Recognizing the manipulation, Emma sought support from friends and a therapist to rebuild her confidence and trust in her perceptions. She eventually decided to end the relationship, seeking connections where her reality and experiences were respected and validated. 15. Superficial charm. Superficial charm is a manipulative tactic used to win trust and admiration without revealing true intentions. Individuals who use this tactic are often charismatic and persuasive, but their charm is a facade designed to manipulate and control. Recognizing superficial charm requires an understanding of the manipulator's tactics and a commitment to looking beyond appearances to understand their true intentions. The dynamics of superficial charm. Superficial charm involves tactics such as flattery, persuasion, and charisma. It is used to win trust and admiration, but it is ultimately self-serving and manipulative. Case study: the charming colleague. Consider the story of Olivia, who worked with a colleague named Peter. Peter was charismatic and charming, always winning the admiration of his co-workers. However, Olivia began to notice that Peter's charm was superficial and manipulative. He would use flattery and persuasion to get what he wanted, often at the expense of others. Recognizing the manipulation, Olivia decided to set boundaries and prioritize her own well-being, seeking connections with colleagues who were genuine and supportive. Conclusion: navigating the intricate landscape of human relationships requires a keen understanding of the subtle signs of manipulation, deceit, and exploitation. Recognizing these signs involves a commitment to understanding the dynamics of power and control in relationships, and a dedication to seeking connections that are based on mutual respect, support, and genuine care. By understanding and addressing these behaviors, we can protect ourselves from the harm of false relationships and cultivate connections that are nurturing, reciprocal, and truly supportive. Seeking relationships based on honesty, respect, and mutual care is essential for our well-being and happiness, allowing us to thrive in a world full of complex and intricate human interactions.